Sometime in the 1600s, a respectable European apothecary is restocking his shelves. Powdered rhubarb, crushed pearls, and between them in a labeled jar a brown powder that used to be a person, ground Egyptian mummy, sold by the ounce, prescribed by physicians, swallowed by kings. For roughly 500 years, Europe ate its ancient dead, and the strangest part isn't that it happened, it's how it started, with a translation error. Medieval physicians inherited their medicine from Persian and Arabic texts, which praised a black tarry substance called mumiya, natural bitumen seeping from mountainsides, used for wounds and ailments. But translators noticed that Egyptian mummies looked blackened and tarry too, and the words blurred together. Mumiya the mineral became mumia the corpse. By the 12th century, the prescription had quietly shifted from "eat this rock tar" to "eat this 3,000-year-old Egyptian." Demand exploded. Mummy became a staple of European pharmacy, recommended for bruises, internal bleeding, epilepsy, plague, almost anything. King Francis I of France reportedly carried a pouch of mummy powder at all times in case of injury. Apothecary catalogs listed it matter-of-factly alongside herbs and minerals. This wasn't a fringe folk remedy. This was the medical mainstream, endorsed by learned men with university degrees for centuries. Then Egypt started running out of mummies. Genuine ancient mummies were a finite resource, and grave-robbing supply chains couldn't keep up with European demand. So dealers did what dealers do. They faked it. Contemporary accounts describe merchants taking the bodies of executed criminals, beggars, and plague victims, drying them in ovens or the sun, and selling them as ancient Egyptian stock. A physician named Guy de la Fontaine visited Alexandria in 1564 and found a dealer who openly admitted his mummies were homemade, a few years old, not a few thousand. The dealer found it hilarious that Europeans would eat them. Think about what that means. At the height of the trade, a European gentleman taking his medicine wasn't even eating an ancient pharaoh. He was likely eating a recently deceased stranger, processed for export, with a markup. And corpse medicine went further than mummies. In the 1600s, King Charles II of England paid a fortune for a recipe distilled from powdered human skull, a remedy so associated with him it was called the King's Drops. He drank it regularly, and it was famously administered on his deathbed, where it worked exactly as well as you'd expect. Human fat was sold for aching joints. Moss grown on old skulls was prized for nosebleeds. Educated Europeans, the same civilization busy calling other cultures savage, were running a routine pharmaceutical trade in human remains. Why did anyone believe this worked? Part of it was the logic of the time. The body was thought to contain a vital force, and consuming a preserved body meant consuming its concentrated life. An ancient mummy, preserved for millennia, seemed like the most concentrated life of all. Add the authority of ancient texts, the placebo effect, and the simple fact that most medicine of the era did nothing, and mummy powder fit right in. It wasn't stupidity. It was a system where authority outweighed evidence, running for so long that no one thought to ask the obvious question. The trade faded in the 1700s as medicine slowly professionalized, but it died more slowly than you'd hope. Mummy remained in some pharmacy catalogs into the 19th century, and in 1908 a major German pharmaceutical company was still listing genuine Egyptian mummy in its price list. That is not medieval history. That's the same decade as the Model T Ford. Here's the uncomfortable mirror in all of this. Every era looks back at the last one and laughs at what people swallowed on authority. The Europeans grinding pharaohs into powder considered themselves the rational ones, the scientific ones, the peak of civilization. They had experts, institutions, and centuries of accepted practice all agreeing with each other, and all wrong because the whole system was built on a mistranslated word that nobody went back and checked. So the real question isn't how they ate mummies for 500 years. It's which of our own unquestioned prescriptions someone will be making a video about 500 years from now.